All right. Hello, everybody. We're going to get started in just a little bit. I wanted to let everybody into the room. Today's real expert is going to be the dynamic home, essential habitat redefined. And we'll start in about 2 minutes. So pretty much straight up on the hour. Wanted to make sure and let you in the room to make sure that you should be able to see a presentation window that says real expert. Slide on there, and then myself and my guest today, Tanya, in the video windows. And so once again, we're going to get started pretty quickly. Feel free to give a little shout out if you are having any problems. We have a couple technical producers available to help on the Hangout also. So feel free to ask questions as we go. We will probably be blazing pretty fast, just so you know. Tanya's got 20 years of experience that we're going to boil down here, and you're going to probably have even more questions when we're done. So we're going to go pretty fast, but feel free to ask some questions, and we'll see if we can get to them. If not, I know Tanya will be glad to answer questions afterwards. So, all right. We're going to get started in about 20 seconds for everybody here. Let's see. Very good. People are coming in. Nice. We're up to 61 attendees already. All right, Kathy, look at that. All good here. Jessica. Hello, everyone. It's working on my end. Excellent. All right. We'll just give it another couple seconds and then we'll get started. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today for our Real Expert presentation. Today we're covering the dynamic home, essential habitat redefined. As the world pandemic has changed our lives, what we've found in our business is that it's condensed decision making, and places we were going anyhow that maybe were going to take us 4 or 5 years, we've now condensed down, and we've made those transitions in our business at Kaplan in about 4 months. And so I think what we find in the rest of the world is that it is changing the pace. The speed of change, actually, it's changing the pace of change immensely. And our guest today is somebody who's going to talk about the dynamic home design. Her name is Tanya Jernberg. And Tanya comes to us, before specializing in new construction and design, Tanya held global leadership roles for Fortune 500 companies, where she is recognized as an expert in market research and consumer insights. So dealing with people, what are they looking for? What's motivating them? Why are they making the decisions they are? This is what Tonya has perfected over her career. She taught at the Real Estate School for the Chicago Association of Realtors, and is currently teaches at Macaulay Real Estate School in Indiana. So she's an instructor and a teacher and an author, and together with her husband, Tanya founded Dynamic Home Design Consulting. She consults with home builders, manufacturers, and real estate professionals about dynamic home and dynamic home design products, right, domiciled within to enhance occupants' health and well-being. And you're going to find that there's a theme to this about well-being. As we spend more and more time in our homes because of kind of the situations that we're all living in right now, I think we're all looking for a piece of that health and wellness. And I find this topic, Tanya, I just want to say thank you for being here. And I find this topic very, very timely. So thank you for being here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm going to do this. These will go very fast, these sessions. That's a half an hour, and I want to go very quickly, and I want to be able to really ask the first question that everybody has on their minds, because we hear a lot about different home designs, and all the way back to an ancient home design philosophy of feng shui, 4,000-year-old design philosophy. Let me ask you, right? in today's world, right, because we're going to talk about the design and why it's important now, but how has our concept of home, we're going to talk about design, but how has our concept of home changed recently?
Well, home is everything. More than a place to sleep. Our home is our workplace. It's where our kids go to school. It's their playground. It's our gym. It's our concert hall, and even our place of worship. And because of this, our homes now need to be dynamic. And by that, I mean they need to be flexible enough to adapt to our ever-changing needs. I'm going to probably give you a lot of pieces of information today, a lot of which you can contact me, and I'd be more than happy to kind of send you this. But specifically, there was a study that was done in 2018 before the pandemic by Health. It was actually done by a company called Delos, and it's called the Health Home Report. And they're a pioneer in real estate wellness research. And what they found is that in 2018, they found that 70% of Americans spent their time at home, but now that number has increased up to 90%. And our indoor environment basically influences every aspect of our lives. Many people don't know that. It influences our mood, our energy level, how well we sleep, and how productive we are throughout the day. And because of that, you've got real estate developers, designers who have been reevaluating and redesigning homes, again, before COVID, taking a closer look at things like at-home quality of air, quality of water, circadian lighting, noise reduction, among a host of other things. And because of this, there has been a fundamental shift occurring, again, long before COVID. And thanks now to COVID, this focus has intensified. And for you folks today who are on the here joining us for this webinar, there's a huge opportunity, not only for real estate developers, but also for brokers who are representing the seller of a dynamic home or representing the buyer of a dynamic home, because these homes basically sell for a premium of up to 35%. Yes, 35%. Not to mention that they sell faster than the competition. Also, real estate developers see a 10 to 10% premium, Toby, for rental properties that also incorporate wellness elements. And lastly, let me mention that even wellness branded hotels can charge a 15 to 30% average daily rate premium for a hotel room. So clearly, the home is now everything and no longer considered a basic commodity. It's moved beyond being a place of shelter to really becoming that source of protection and prosperity, not to mention a valuable asset to people in terms of their mental, physical, and well-being.
That's some amazing statistics there. 35% more for a home. Correct. With these components. You know what? I would have thought you were crazy when you said that, except for now, for the last 3 months, I've been in my home, right? I'm here at my home, and I know everything that's wrong about it now, because I used to escape, go to work, and I'd work in an office, and it was my office environment, and I had some control there, but I would come home and I would, now that I'm here and the whole family is here, I know we're going to talk about some things that are important. And in fact, I'd like to understand, what is a dynamic home? Tell me, so that we're all clear on what a dynamic home is.
Well, healthy dynamic home is by design, because it places health and well-being at the center of all the decisions that have to do with the design, engineering, and the construction of a home. And a dynamic home isn't just new construction. I want to be clear about that, because it also includes existing homes that may be remodeled using some dynamic home features, fixtures, and finishes. And these, again, features, fixtures, and finishes, they are designed for a variety of contexts and a variety of situations, all that promote at-home overall health and well-being. Now, by context, I want to be clear, by context, I mean the situations and environments where we are to use a product and service. You see that context in design absolutely matters. I can't stress that enough. The design, the things that we might normally think of as being well-designed are often only well-designed within a certain context. So when something is designed within a certain context, we call that static design, whereas dynamic design serves a variety of contexts, environments, and people. For example, everyone has a smartphone, okay? And the smartphone, if you think about it, this is an example of a design element, or a dynamic design element. And it's dynamic because it's not only a phone, but what else is it? It's our lifeline, actually. It's how we communicate to each other. It's a flashlight. It's a GPS. It does a host of many things, and that's what makes it design, a dynamic design, meaning it serves a variety of different types of contexts, different types of varieties, and it even serves a lot of different types of people. For example, Toby, if you wouldn't mind humoring me and the rest of you out there in the audience, if you would take your smartphone and if you go into it and under settings, I just want to show you this really quickly because most people are not even aware that this exists. But under settings, there is a button there that says accessibility. And in that prompt there, if you can see that this phone can be used for someone who may not have the ability to use their hands at the time. It can be used for someone who might not be able to rely on their sight, but instead on vision. It can be used for someone who might have some dexterity issues. So clearly, something that's designed from a dynamic standpoint is going to serve a variety, a multitude of contexts, for a multitude of environments, and for a multitude of individuals.
Tanya, I'm really glad you kind of grabbed the phone because I know we've talked, and so everybody knows I do talk with our guests ahead of time to make sure we can hit stuff fast in 30 minutes. And so and the phone is very interesting. There was a time when I had a flip phone and I thought that was everything. I would imagine the flip phone is your example of a static design.
Exactly. Very good. Thank you, Toby, for mentioning that, because static design refers to something that is marked by a lack of movement and change, whereas dynamic refers to something that is marked by continuous and productive movement of change. And that's really important because the vast majority of homes out there, they are built based on a static design, a one-size-fits-all, one-size environment fits all. And we all know, particularly now living through this pandemic, that our homes are everything. They need to be more flexible. They need to be able to adapt to our ever-changing needs. And that is the characteristic of something that is
I think I live in a flip phone, just so you know.
And you know what, Toby? You're not alone. Most people.
All right. So take us into, if we're going to, why does dynamic home, I think we maybe established why dynamic home is a design for the way forward. But is there anything that we're missing there? Why wouldn't it be, the design of the way forward? I mean, if I go from a flip phone to a smartphone, why wouldn't I want the same thing in my house now that I'm spending, I don't think I'm ever going back into the office. I think I'm a remote worker permanently. And so my home has to do something different. I know that. And how many other, why is that why it's the way forward? You tell me.
It's the way forward because placing health and wellness at the center of design, engineering, and construction. It's there to make sure that you are healthy and that you stay healthy. Let's face it, consumers today are more than ever before hyper vigilant about their health and well-being, both not only away from home, but just as much at home. There's a Hanley Wood study here, and again, this is something I'd be more than happy to send to folks who are on the webinar today. But in this study, what they found is that 75% of people, again, back in 2018, they were demanding design elements and products and technologies that promote good health and emotional well-being. And these same consumers were also looking for improved air and water quality, in addition to a better night's sleep and reduced medical costs. We all want to see that reduced. So the dynamic home is a way forward because it addresses these concerns as well. And specifically, a dynamic home really focuses on 8 areas for improved health and wellness. And
got it. Now, do you think I know you got 8 areas. That's a lot of areas. I'm not sure we're going to get to all of them, but if you could boil it down to maybe the top 2, 3, or 4, give us all of them, but then let's dig into a couple so people will have some stuff to walk away with so they know what you're talking about.
Absolutely. Those 8 areas for improved health and wellness include performance, how well the house performs, lifestyle, safety, stress, energy, sleep, cognition, and nutrition. And in the interest of time, we'll just focus on some highlights because I could clearly spend a week going into a lot of these in a lot of detail, but we'll just talk for today's purposes about performance, lifestyle, and stress, since a lot of us are feeling some of those things. And so in terms of performance, I think let's start with the kitchen, because we value the kitchen more than any other room in the house. It comes second to the bedroom, where we spend most of our sleeping time, of course, but 28% of the time is spent in the kitchen. Did you know that the standard kitchen countertop height of 36 inches, which is what you find in your static design home, is the leading cause of backache problems among a lot of adults? That 36-inch height came out of studies that were conducted back in the 1930s, when people were on average an inch shorter than what they are today, and when the kitchen was much more the domain of women. A dynamic home, on the other hand, has multi-level kitchen countertops because these are ergonomically better. In fact, a dynamic home can have up to 3 different countertop heights. And I can go into a few of those. In the interest of time, I'll just be really brief. So let's start with the cutting surface, because we're all in the kitchen, particularly now that we're spending more time at home and baking and cooking a lot more. The average cutting surface, again, 36 inches height, should really be at 34 to 38 inches, with the palms of your hands should be on the surface, and your forearm should really make a 45-degree angle with that top. And a word about those cutting boards. The average cutting board has 200% more fecal bacteria than your toilet seat. Yuck.
Whoa. You mean cutting board like a plastic cutting board, or do you mean like a wood cutting board, or what do you mean?
I actually mean a wood cutting board. And that's a surprise to a lot of people. In fact, it takes only as few as 10 bacteria to make people sick. And on average, even that sponge that you use or that cloth that you use to wipe your countertops, that has about 134,630 bacteria. Let's not forget the old kitchen faucet handle that has 13,227 bacteria. So to combat all of this, a dynamic kitchen might have an integrated sink and marble cutting board station combo. That marble cutting board is more hygienic than a conventional cutting board. It can prevent daily microorganisms like Salmonella or E. coli from even transferring into your food. And that integrated, meaning it's all together, the sink and the cutting board, that integrated marble cutting board and sink makes cleanup a breeze. Just sweep your scraps into the garbage disposal when you're finished, and then use your touchless faucet in your sink to clean your cutting board. So again, that's one of the things that it has. Also, speaking of sinks, did you know that most sinks are too low for most people? They're optimal for someone if they're 5'8", but the working surface in a sink is the bottom of that sink. So you should be able to pick up anything off the bottom of that sink without bending your back. So a 6-foot-tall person might need a counter with a sink that's 2 to 3 inches higher, and a person that might be 5'4" might need a sink that's somewhere around 2 to 3 inches lower. So again, that's the second type of multi-tier countertop station you might find in a dynamic home kitchen. A baking station, that's usually 28 to 30 inches in height for people today, not that 36 inch that comes standard is part of your static home. So with a baking station, you want to make sure that you have the right height, so that when you need to roll, you're using your elbows and you're using those elbows straight so that you can use the weight of your shoulders. Again, all of these elements, these are wellness elements. They're going to help promote healthy living. Not to mention kitchen storage. Here's something really a lot of people don't realize. 50% of items in a dynamic home will be stored below the waist or below the countertops. And some great examples of lower storage finishes are things like dish drawers. They're lovely. People use them in Europe. They're very, very big. Even cup drawers.
I see them all over IKEA.
IKEA has a lot of them. You know what? It avoids you having to bend your back and having to pick up things.
Yeah.
So also avoids the risk of you dropping things from the kitchen cabinet.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so what I'm seeing is I'm trying to visualize this as you're talking, right? So I walk into a kitchen, and my home built 1927. I got one countertop height, and I bet you it's dead on 36 inches. I'm almost on 5'11". My wife is 6'1", and I promise you the countertop heights are not appropriate. But I'm starting to visualize when I walk into maybe a dynamic home, I'm seeing multiple levels, different workstations for not only different ages, maybe different heights, but even as somebody might become handicapped in an accessibility perspective, like a touchless sink is perfect for somebody who maybe has difficulty reaching and holding more than one item with a hand.
Absolutely.
I mean, is that what I'm looking for?
Absolutely correct. I mean, that touchless faucet is, in addition to eliminating germs and bacteria, definitely helpful for someone who might have some dexterity issues, or someone who might be, let's face it, us folks, chefs in the kitchen know that we need a third hand almost. So by having that touchless faucet means you don't have to worry about turning it on if you need to put more water in that big heavy pot that you're holding. Those are definitely examples of elements in the home that make that home work harder for us. Because
move us out into the home. What about like what other things like dynamic? Because when I think of dynamic, I'm thinking of like expandable rooms. I'm thinking other things.
Expandable rooms with walls that pull out, even for new construction, including things like rough-in plumbing or rough-ins for plumbing and for electric, which those are things that maybe today you don't need the extra lighting, but you might need it down the road, or even that extra plumbing for that bathroom in that third room or in the lower level of the house. Even something like closets that are stackable, meaning if you've got 2-level or 3-level home, if the closets are all lined up, those closets down the road could be converted to be used as an elevator. So those are called rough-ins, and those are rough-ins for plumbing and electric, as well as for things like I'm mentioning, the elevator for the future if you have stackable closets. But lastly, open floor plans with activity centers with 0-step main floor access to bed, kitchen, and laundry. Those are also characteristics of a dynamic home, because all of these allow for that space to really improve performance efficacy. So that's why performance is one of those 8 wellness areas that a dynamic home focuses on.
It's interesting. I'm sorry. I was just going to interject. It's interesting. You know, I remember one of the most shocking things I'd seen and come out of a National Association of Realtors report was that millennials, in looking for a home, thought that a media room was more important than a master bathroom when buying a home. And I'm wondering, you know, how does that work into today with people working from home and the dynamic home? And you were talking about movable walls. I'm wondering how that's all playing in today. How are you seeing those kind of concerns about working from home playing into the dynamic home today?
Great question. In addition to working from home, let's face it, a lot of us know that with the new hybrid plan for kids going back to school, now our kids will be spending more time receiving their education from home. So those are those are 2 huge areas. Those are urgent lifestyle needs that we're currently facing as a result of COVID. Well, as far as a dynamic home is equipped with a built-in either workstation for working from home or an extra home office. But whether it's a workstation or a room that's designated specifically for working at home, it has generous counter and cabinet space. It's got large open shelving and display for displays and books, as well as plenty of receptacles, ultra-fast USB charging outlets, and even an additional data teleport. So it has those things, and that same type of equipment could also be used to help children or help our students learn from home, because it's also going to have a workstation that's built in that kids can use, and as well cabinets and stuff.
There is an awful lot of learning that happens right on the other side of this wall, I'll tell you that. And but it's not ideal because I'm trying to work here and I can hear it all happening there. And so I'm imagining in a dynamic home, those kind of pieces are taken into account and allow for flexible, multiple different areas of private space for workstations and connecting with people, and yet being separate enough to do work, school, play in the same environment.
You know, one thing I didn't with a dynamic home, not just about those features and fixtures and finishes that you can see, it's just as much about those things that you can't see, like sound. Because as you're working from home, as you're studying from home, we are clearly need to make sure that we have soundproofed the home in a way so that we have greater focus. So those things are equally important too. So again, I've been spending a lot of time focusing on those elements, those wellness elements that we can see. But again, it's just as much as important about those elements that we cannot see that are beneath the surface.
It's very interesting. I did walk in my first soundproofed home the other day, and it was astonishing how quiet and how in control of the environment you felt in that home, even from room to room, and then across the whole house. So really interesting that you said that. It just triggered that for me.
And a lot of people don't realize there's two types of noise. We just think of noise as noise, right? But there's airborne noise that gets transferred through the air. That's like when you hear music down the hall or speech or hearing the television play. And then there is impact noise. That's noise that happens when an object makes an impact with another object. That might be like hearing someone's footsteps on the floor or the banging on the wall that could be heard in a neighboring room. So in a dynamic home, you're using insulation for both the exterior and interior walls, which you don't have in a static home most of the time. You have it on the exterior, but in a dynamic home, it's insulation using an exterior as well as interior walls and windows and doors. So we're back to solid core doors as opposed to these hollow doors, because all those things help to reduce both the airborne and impact noise. So very, very important.
Interesting. What about safety? I see a lot of wired homes, wired connectivity. How does safety and connectivity, how does that play into the concept of a dynamic home?
That's a great question. A dynamic home, first and foremost, has a high performance ventilation system that keeps us safe at home from the spread of COVID. Because what it does, it regularly introduces fresh outdoor air indoors with large floor-to-ceiling windows, which are also characteristic of a dynamic home. You can have natural ventilation, which can be improved by simply opening the windows, and ventilation can be further increased through cross-ventilation. So those things are important. Another thing, going back to what I was saying before, a dynamic home is just about those wellness elements that you can see and can't see. A dynamic home has either zero or low VOCs, and for those of you who don't know what that stands for, that's volatile organic compounds. And VOCs can be found in insulation, can be found in the paint that's used in the home, the carpeting, as well as cabinetry. A lot of houses have building materials and household products that release these harmful VOC chemicals, and they release them into the air. And when they build up in the home, they can trigger adverse health symptoms and really increase the risk of really developing some serious illnesses among household occupants. So, and because they're invisible, it's easy for us to ignore. But be rest assured, they are very, very, very dangerous.
So I hear a theme here, obviously, and what I'm hearing, probably the word we've used more than anything as a describer is wellness. And everything, when we started, you took us in the kitchen, and it was about angles, and it was about back and stress, and then it was about health, meaning wellness, meaning cleanliness and bacteria, and now you're talking about windows and air quality and wellness and sound, for, I'm sure, for stress relieving, and so I feel like wellness is the giant theme here of what we're going to be looking for, and people are looking for going forward.
And that is correct. Again, a dynamic home, it's all about keeping us healthy and keeping us safe. And I know we've gone through just a few rooms already, but the bathroom, a lot of people don't realize this. Among all the rooms in the house, the bathroom is where most accidents occur. And I'm not just talking about people who are older. I'm talking about 53% of injuries that take place in the bathroom happen to people between the ages of 25 to 64. In fact, 234,000 injuries occur annually just in the bathroom, and 18% of those injuries involve children. So the bathroom, there's a lot of things in a dynamic home design that mitigates some of these dangers. And some of them might include things like a zero-step shower, let's face it, a zero-step shower is beneficial for everyone, whether you're a young child or a young family, or whether you're someone who's older. Even a comfort height toilet, not to mention convenience, a comfort height toilet is anywhere from 17 to 19 inches in height versus your standard or your static toilet, which is 14 to 15 inches in height. So all these things are there to not only improve comfort, but to improve overall health and well-being. And let's face it, when we're feeling better, when things are more comfortable, when we have things to reduce our amount of stress, that helps to increase our ability to heal our body to stay healthy.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. I know we're coming down to our time, and I want to be in the interest of everybody's time. If I'm here and I'm listening to this, and I say I kind of like what I'm kind of like what I'm hearing, I kind of like what I'm seeing. In fact, it kind of resonates with what I am seeing in the marketplace. I see this in some new construction. I see this in some remodeling, components and pieces. I never knew what to call it. In fact, if somebody wanted to learn a little bit more about this, they can contact you. How should they be talking about this? Should they be talking about this using dynamic home design, or what should people do?
Well, actually, to learn more about how to design, I will be more than happy again to send a copy of a couple of links of white papers that spell out a lot of different wellness elements throughout every single room of the home, so people on this webinar can learn a lot more. And when speaking with clients, when working with buyers as well as sellers, they're going to talk in code. So you'll know that they are looking for a dynamic home, even though they may not use the word dynamic, but when they can express health concerns or a need for at-home safety or the desire to have a home that addresses their flexible needs both now and in the future, the buyer is asking for a dynamic home. And because home is now everything, a dynamic home is in fact the way forward when it comes to residential housing, because it's healthy by design. And by way of its features, fixtures, and finishes, it's flexible enough to meet our ever-changing needs, especially now.
Beautiful. Tanya, I can't thank you enough for being here today for our Real Expert presentation. I want to thank everybody who is here joining us today. This will be available on video on the presentation screen at the very beginning. I know we have Tonya Jernberg's email address there in full. And by all means, reach out to her if you'd like to get more information on this. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.